A new build rises. Forbidden Rite of Soul Sacrifice. In the background, you will have some gameplay of me leveling between level 70 to 80. This is a brand new build. We are very much in the development phase, if you will. Now, this is going to be a Hierophant as opposed to the expected Pathfinder. As most of you know who watch my channel here on YouTube, I prefer the Pathfinder Forbidden Rite. But with the new gem that was introduced with Affliction, I kind of figured I owed it to you guys to try to make something work. And I do have some ideas, but they also have some problems that come with it. So it's going to be an interesting study to see if I am a good enough builder to solve them and make the build playable. Well, it's clearly playable. It's also a bit, it's a bit of a light show, and it's only going to get better or worse depending on your definition of it, because we're expecting to have over 200 or close to 200 increased global area of effect. About 12 power charges, absorption charges, and frenzy charges, 5 endurance charges, and a hell of a lot of energy shield, with a lot of sustain, including answers to the chaos problem. But we'll go through that on the gearing section and kind of explain what the problem is. I have noticed also that with my current movement speed that I had to solve with a movement skill, courtesy of the new Frostblade, there's a bit of rubber banding going on that I find sometimes with spell echo. I'm not entirely sure if this is an issue on my end, or if it's an issue with the servers, or if it's just spell echo being spell echo. But yes, we are still solving a lot of problems as they become more annoying or as they need to be solved. But hopefully you guys will enjoy what I am trying to create. If you have any solutions or any advice or tips, by all means, because once again, this is very early stages. I'm still trying to figure it out as I go along, but I kind of figured I'd give you guys an update on my current building adventures. So before we talk about the tech real quickly, allow me to preface this once again. It is an experimental journey. This is going to be a build journal, more so than a build guide. It is a brand new gem on an ascendancy that I don't have a lot of experience with, so I'm kind of making it up as I go along. But join me on this journey of the Forbidden Rite of Soul Sacrifice. It is a Hierophant, level 77. The gameplay you just saw was in fact of me leveling. It is a work in progress, very much so, but it has some really cool tech and some really cool solutions, and perhaps less so awesome solutions. But yes, the star of the show is of course Forbidden Rite of Soul Sacrifice. The cool things here, or the unfortunate things are that you have to note, is that the cost is not mana, it is life. And we take a bunch of damage based on our energy shield. So we need to solve for life, and we need to solve for energy shield and chaos damage taken, and while doing chaos damage. Sadly, due to the result of life being the cost, we can't go with chaos inoculation. That doesn't work, sadly. But what we can do is low life, without killing ourselves, but we're going to take chaos damage. So we have to solve that. Now, I have solved this through a combination of methods with recoup. So we're recouping life, we're recouping energy shield, and we're recouping mana. Now, the life is simple. That's just simply infused flesh right now. I'm contemplating picking up vampirism. I'm contemplating recrafting my resistance ring, depending on how the stats end up, or my stat ring right here that I'm using. I don't think I need the chaos rest right here because I think I have enough. So I can maybe put like a recoup there to help facilitate a little bit more, because all we really need, however, is enough to cover the cost. And we can do that already. It's just the ramp up time is a little slow. So I wonder if I can maybe amp that up a little bit through that. But yes, in terms of mana cost, because we are spending mana, just not conventionally. As a Hierophant, you get things such as, but not limited to, Divine Guidance, which gives you a 10% mind over matter effect. Now, on top of that, we also have a 100% mind over matter effect for chaos damage. So, if we recoup mana, we can have infinite chaos sustain. So, and we're taking a lot of chaos damage. So all that goes into the mana. So we have to deal with that. Now we're recouping mana a little bit here. We have damage taken recouped as mana. We can also recraft our rings for that specifically if we wanted to. I believe it's an unveil. Don't quote me on that. But also we have the Mind Spiral, which gives us 18% of damage taken recouped as mana as well. I think it goes up to a maximum of 20. Yes, so it's a high roll. Very lovely. Which is very interesting. But the real star of the show, and the reason why we can handle the massive amount of chaos damage we're taking, is because we're not actually taking that much chaos damage. At least not in the traditional sense. We are using Forbidden Flesh and Forbidden Flame, Searing Purity. This allows us to put 90% of our chaos damage into elemental damage. 45 lightning, 45 fire. Which means we're only taking 10% damage from those chaos concerns. So we only have to deal with 10% through our mana, which is a lot better than we have to actually worry about. On top of that, if we do take chaos damage, we also have a little bit of energy shield. Now, I did say try recoup. Now we have life, we have mana recoup. Where do we get the energy shield recoup from? This is where the necessary Graven secret comes in. Absorption charges. Player recoup 12% of elemental damage taken as energy shield per absorption charge. So assuming it's a chaos hit, or any kind of elemental damage hit, we recoup that. Now mind you, we have 12 charges on power, which means we have 12 absorption charges, while still having 12 power charges. That's actually a tech. We have power charges and absorption charges active at any given time. There's a link below in the description box on a smaller video that explains that. But yes, we have both charges, and as a result, we have 12 times 12 elemental damage recoup, which is way above 100. So if we take elemental damage as a hit and we don't kill it, our energy shield just regenerates all of it, which is very, very lovely. So that's our energy shield recoup, because if we are doing chaos damage to ourselves, we are recouping more than 100% that back into our energy shield. We're also recouping life and recouping mana from it. Now, if we recoup enough mana back, we can just cover the entire cost through the damage we take, which we are already doing. So it becomes this wonderful combination of try-recoup effects that we can all activate by simply hurting ourselves with Forbidden Rite of Soul Sacrifice. Now, since we are spending mana through other mechanics, like on-hit effects, or cast when damage taken, which we can trigger by our own on-hit effects, we can actually spend mana through Mana Bond and Frost Shield, which allows us to trigger the Callista's Grace extra crit, which also allows us to do more damage. Since we have 12 power charges, 12 frenzy charges, and a bunch of endurance charges, we can do a bunch of damage scaling with things like Charge Mastery, but also the frenzy charges and the power charges give us a bunch of damage to begin with, which is really, really good. So we have this wonderful synergy between power stacking or charge stacking, recoup, and of course, Forbidden Rite of Soul Sacrifice. Now, the Ivory Tower gives us a bunch of energy shield. That's how we're going to get it. We allow us to get more auras as well. We currently are running an Arrogance on Determination together with the Recover, at least Reservation Master here, to make sure that we have enough life to start the cycle of casters, which isn't quite perfect yet. As you can see, it starts a little slow, but then once it's up, it keeps going. We are not sustaining right now because we only have 5 absorption charges. We need to get some hits in for power charge on critical support to actually start giving us those absorption charges through the conversion of the belt. Now, it's a thing, right? Like, there's a whole lot of nuance here. So once we have all of that set up, we can essentially fight and not die. On top of that, we are complementing that, of course, with the typical power charge stuck with the Militant Faith. We also have a Watcher's Eye that gives us more Chaos Res, as well as maximum mana as maximum energy shield. Very basic. We also have a nice balance of Tether. So if we cast Despair, we can take care of our Wither, which is really, really nice. On top of that, we have a That Which Was Taken for some sustain, area of effect, effect of curses, maximum mana as energy shield, which is very lovely. I already talked about the Flame and the Flesh. And in terms of the cluster itself, giving us another gem slot, we also get Unspeakable Gifts, which is explosions. I'm wondering if Unholy Grace might be better. Dark Ideation, which is normally like a really bad note, but since we have so much mana, it's actually a really good note, making the cluster very, very cheap for us, as well as Unwavering Evil to deal with the stun mechanics. So that's kind of the deal. Now, the reason why I said I wonder if explosions are good, because normally explosions are really, really good, but as a Hierophant, you get like some bunch of AoE scaling. But then also with the Affliction mechanic, you get a bunch of AoE scaling. That's 4 area of effect per power charge. You don't have to roll it. It's just guaranteed 4 at tier 1. Which means we have 12 times 4. That's 48 on 1, 2, and 3. That's nearly 150, well, area of effect. And then if we set up our mana correctly, that's up to another 100% possibly. If we won't be able to have that much mana, but yeah, we get a bunch of area of effect from there as well, plus maybe other stuff from other gear, right? Plus the actual gem itself. So that's 48, 48, 48, and 48 plus Hierophant. So we're going to cross 200 increased area of effect. So I'm wondering if these explosions are really, really good. Aside from that, let me actually go through the gems real quick. We are using Divine Blessing on a Zealotry with an Inspiration. Just have to keep it up. Everybody knows how that works. We have an Enlightened, Purity of Elements, Arctic Armor, and Discipline. I would love to have an Enlightened 4 because more mana means more Chaos Tank, and of course also some Mind over Matter 10% tank over here through, Divine Guidance. Very lovely. On Arrogance, we have Determination and a level 1 Clarity. The Clarity is there to trigger the Watcher's Eye. The Determination is there to make sure we don't die to the physical hits. We have a Mortal Claw on left click typically. I'm not sure if I want to keep this. We'll see. Despair to trigger the Balance of Terror, so that's mandatory. Spell Echo feels really weird, but it does give us a lot of cast speed to make Frostblink of Wintry Blast seem instant because we don't walk very fast. That's another problem, right, that I've talked about. It's slow, but if we cast, look at the AoE though, we can actually blink around quite quickly. So I wonder if I maybe want to add a Void Manipulation, a Void Manipulation in there to avoid getting Reflect killed, because that totally didn't happen already. But yes, we might just mess around with that. But yeah, the Spell Echo makes the cast speed feel very good, but that seems to rubber band sometimes, and I'm a little annoyed with that. So I'm not sure if there's a better way to do that, but we'll get to it. I already talked about the cast and damage taken link. This just helps us trigger everything. And the 6th link itself, Forbidden Rite of Soul Sacrifice, obviously power charge and critical support, mandatory. Void Manipulation once I'm level 80, that's going to become a Awakened Void Manip that I've already got leveled and weighted. Greater Volley. Now, if you have Awakened GMP, that would be, of course, phenomenal. Otherwise, Greater Volley is better than GMP because it's giving you more damage. And Forbidden Rite is kind of homing in its original state anyway, so you don't have to worry too much about it. Spell Echo is supposed to be Awakened Spell Echo, obviously, which gives you the double damage chance, which is normally not relevant for poison because it doesn't work on poison, but we're not poisoned this time, so it's very relevant for us. And then we also have increased critical damage support, which I believe might have some variation depending on which way the wind blows, but I think for budget purposes and trying to experiment with things, increased critical damage is definitely the way to go with just the raw value you get out of that. Now, that's pretty much what we've got going. We do have a Bottled Faith as well. It's okay. Pretty much only for unique and tougher mobs. Dying Sun for more projectiles. This speaks for itself because we're going to have so much AoE that those projectiles are going to be awesome and have a lot of potential overlapping, especially once there's like a wall in the way. We can hit some really good amount of enemies with far more intended hits than possible. We do have a Silver Flask with armor. We have a crit chance, Basalt Flask, and Granite Flask. I'm not sure about this setup. I might ultimately switch to a Quicksilver after all, simply to know, or just for mapping purposes maybe. I'm not sure yet. It feels a little weird to have no Mage Blood or Pathfinder, but we'll get used to it. I have to figure it all out. But that's kind of what we have. So we discussed the gems, the gear. We have discussed the Tri-Recoup, how we're dealing with the Forbidden Rite Soul of Sacrifice. We have talked about how we're dealing with the movement. Right now, I'm using Lunaris because I have a response to Brine King, or to the stun that is normally Brine King. So I'm planning on using Lunaris or Soul of Arakali to deal with degens. Speaking of degens, I'm thinking about running Soul of Ralakash. If I can figure out a way to get Corrupted Blood immunity as well as Bleed immunity, I will probably switch to Avarath. if it is necessary. Because once again, once we have set everything up, we can sustain ourselves by hitting ourselves, assuming we have enough absorption charges and perhaps some other new tech in the future. It's a work in progress. I know it's a lot to take in, but hopefully this gave you guys a bit of an idea. Thank you so much for listening to me ramble. Forbidden Rite of Soul Sacrifice, it's coming to a near YouTube channel to you. By you? By me? I don't know. I'm working on it, alright? Like, you can check out the stream if you want to see me figure it all out live. Otherwise, hang on tight, and hopefully in a couple of days we'll have a good POV and a guide for you. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good night. Take care. And I am out.